Let's talk about OSHA. You've probably heard the name. It's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And its whole mission is actually pretty simple, to make sure that when you go to work, you come home safe. But, how does it really work and what are your rights in all of this? Let's break it down. I want to start with just a number, 6,827. That's it. So what is that? Well, that's how many times in just the last year that OSHA wrote up employers for this single most common safety violation in the country. It's a mistake that puts thousands of people at risk every single day. So what is it? So that number, it's all about a lack of proper fall protection. And what's truly staggering is that this has been the #1 violation for, get this, 15 years in a row. It just keeps happening. And you have to ask why. A lot of times it just comes down to people getting too comfortable on job sites, companies not providing the right gear, or, just not doing enough training. It's a totally predictable and completely preventable problem. But believe me, not having fall protection is just the tip of the iceberg. Every year, OSHA puts out a top 10 list of the violations they cite most often, and it's basically a snapshot of where things are going wrong most often all across the country.
So take a look at this list. The first thing that just jumps right out at you is how dominant fall protection is. I mean, it has more than double the violations of the #2 spot, which is hazard communication. But the list also shines a light on other huge areas. Not telling workers about dangerous chemicals, ladder safety, making sure machines have proper guards. Now, OSHA doesn't release this data to shame anybody. They do it to give companies a roadmap to help them find and fix the most common problems before an inspector shows up.
Looking at a list of all the ways things go wrong, it kind of makes you step back and wonder, what's the bigger picture here? To really get why OSHA has these rules, we've got to go back to the very beginning. Why was this agency even created in the first place? At its heart, OSHA's mission is incredibly simple. It's to stop workers, like the one you see right here, from getting killed or seriously hurt on the job. The law that created OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Act, guarantees every single worker the right to a safe workplace. It's a fundamental promise. So, the big question is, has it actually worked? Well, the data is pretty clear on this one. Ever since President Nixon signed the OSHA Act into law back in 1970, work-related deaths have dropped by almost 63%. That is a huge life-saving impact over the last 50-plus years. So how does OSHA actually pull this off? How do they enforce this life-saving mission? Well, it all really boils down to two main types of rules that are the backbone for everything they do. Okay, think of it like this. On one side, you've got specific standards. These are like detailed instruction manuals for dangers we already know about, things like ladder safety or machine guards, just like we saw on that top 10 list. Then, on the other side, you have something called the General Duty Clause. And this is OSHA's catch-all. It's a safety net for any serious hazard that doesn't have its own specific rule.
Now, this General Duty Clause is a really big deal because it's so flexible. It's designed to cover serious dangers that aren't spelled out in some specific regulation. For instance, there isn't a specific OSHA rule for workplace violence, but if it's a known hazard in a certain industry and a company does nothing about it, the General Duty Clause can be used. It's how OSHA adapts to new and evolving risks at work.
All right, now we get to what I think is the most important part of all this. What does it actually mean for you? Let's break down your rights as an employee and what your employer is required to do. Under the law, you have some fundamental rights. You have the right to a safe workplace, period. You have the right to get training about hazards, and it has to be in a language you can understand. You can ask to see injury records and copies of any safety tests that have been done. And maybe most important of all, you have the right to file a completely confidential complaint with OSHA without any fear of getting fired or punished. These rights are protected by law, and just knowing them is the first step.
And on the other side of that coin, for every right you have, your employer has a responsibility. They must provide a workplace that's free from serious known dangers, and they have to follow all the OSHA standards. This includes giving you all the necessary personal protective equipment, or PPE, at no cost to you. They have to train you, keep good records of injuries, and they have to tell OSHA within 8 hours if someone dies or within 24 hours for a serious injury. This isn't optional for them, it's the law.
So let's bring this all together. When we circle back to that top 10 list we started with, it's really easy to just see it as a list of failures, right? But there's a much more powerful way to look at it. This is the key takeaway, right here. That top 10 list isn't just about what went wrong, it's a roadmap for how to get it right. It shows companies exactly where they need to focus their safety efforts. It helps them go from just trying to avoid fines to actually building a proactive culture that keeps everybody safe. And that really leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Just look around your own workplace, your job site, your office, your factory. Is the focus just on checking boxes and trying to avoid a violation? Or is there a real, genuine commitment from everyone to make sure that every single person goes home safe at the end of the day? Because the answer to that question, well, that makes all the difference.